The desert was silent, but the wind carried whispers of the dead. 5,000 years ago, when the moon was brighter and the earth was darker, the world belonged to men who were larger than life, rulers whose shadows swallowed cities, kings whose names were carved into stone and blood. They were not ordinary men. They were giants, dreamers of eternity, and keepers of secrets that still haunt the earth. In the city of Uruk, the torches on the walls flickered like dying stars. The people whispered one name and feared Gilgamesh. His eyes burned like fire, and his voice made the ground tremble. He was said to be 2/3 god and 1/3 man, a creature neither mortal nor divine, but something in between. He crushed his enemies with hands that felt like iron, and he walked the streets like a beast in human skin. But inside him was a fear darker than any battle, the silence of death. To escape that silence, he wandered. Through forests where twisted trees groaned under the weight of unseen demons. Through rivers that stank of blood and carried bones instead of fish. He fought monstrous beasts, shadows with claws, and spirits that whispered his name in madness. He sought the secret of immortality, but every step only dragged him closer to the truth that no man, no god, no giant can run from the grave. And yet, his story did not die. The Epic of Gilgamesh became the first tale ever written, carved into clay so the world would never forget the man who tried to escape death. Far to the west, in Egypt, another ruler watched the stars. His name was Khufu, and he defied the sky itself. He commanded stones heavier than mountains to rise from the desert, stacking them one upon another until they pierced the heavens. Men screamed as they hauled the stones, their blood sinking into the sand. Thousands died, but Khufu did not stop. His heart was stone, his will sharper than steel. The Great Pyramid rose, not as a tomb, but as a warning. Its shadow stretched across the desert like the arm of the god. Some said at night, the pyramid glowed, as if the souls of the workers, buried alive within its walls, still guarded it. Travelers claimed they heard footsteps inside, echoing in empty corridors. And deep within its core, a chamber no living man dared to enter, there was said to be a curse written in the language of the dead. Whoever disturbs this place will never rest. While Egypt built its monuments of terror, the Indus Valley carved cities out of stone and fire. Mohenjo-daro and Harappa rose with streets too perfect, drains too clean, walls too straight. But perfection always hides something. In the shadows of the streets, whispers told of sacrifices offered to gods with no names. The drains, people said, carried not only water but the blood of offerings. And beneath the city, hidden beneath layers of brick and dust, tunnels led to a place where the sun had never shone. An underground city of silence, where shadows moved without bodies, where a single misstep meant vanishing forever. The builders were not just engineers, they were priests of darkness. Their hands laid bricks, but their eyes were fixed on something no mortal should see. Even today, when the ruins lie silent, some claim to hear voices at night, chanting in a tongue older than time, calling to the gods of the deep. Farther east, the mountains of China stood tall and wrapped in mist. Here, rulers spoke softly, but their words cut deeper than blades. They demanded loyalty, and those who disobeyed vanished into the mountains, never to return. Legends whisper that the ancestors themselves watched from the heavens, demanding blood and obedience. Temples were filled with fire and smoke, and sacrifices burned in silence, their ashes carried by the wind to the sky. The rulers of China were not mere kings, they were shadows that ruled both the living and the dead. Their wisdom was sharp, but their cruelty sharper. They spoke of harmony, but behind closed doors, they fed the spirits with blood. The mist of the mountains swallowed the screams of the missing, and the rivers carried their bones to the sea. These men, Gilgamesh, Khufu, the builders of the Indus, the rulers of China, were not just leaders. They were monsters and gods, dreamers and tyrants. They built cities that defied time, monuments that pierced the sky, and systems so perfect they could only have been designed with sacrifice. Their secrets remain buried, but their shadows are still alive. 5,000 years have passed. The deserts have shifted, the rivers have dried, the cities have fallen into dust. Yet on nights when the wind is cruel, and the moon burns red, their footsteps can still be heard. Gilgamesh's cry in the forest, Khufu's curse inside the pyramid, the whispers beneath Mohenjo-daro, the screams in the mountains of China. They echo across time, a reminder that greatness is never pure discarnate from fear. But the night was restless, the winds carried the weight of forgotten screams. 5,000 years had not erased the shadows of men who stood larger than life, men whose footsteps shook the earth. Among them rose Sargon-of-Akkad, a king who claimed the world was nothing but clay in his hands. His armies marched like storms, their bronze weapons drenched in blood, their voices chanting his name as if he were God. But Sargon was more than a king. He was an architect of terror. He demanded loyalty sealed in flesh, and those who denied him vanished into the dust, their bones left as offerings to his empire. His throne was not just wood and stone, it was built on the skulls of the fallen. His eyes burned with the hunger of eternity, a hunger that whispered, "The world belongs only to the strongest." Far to the east, in the land of fire and silence, priests of Persia gathered around their eternal flames. These were not fires for warmth or light, they were hungry, living things. Victims were bound in chains, their cries swallowed by the roar of sacred fire. The priests chanted in voices not of men, but of something older, calling upon powers that lived in the smoke. The flames rose higher, shaping faces in the dark, faces that demanded sacrifice, faces that watched and remembered. Across the seas, in the cradle of Greece, kings and warlords bent their knees before cruel gods. The people built temples with trembling hands, carving statues whose eyes followed every step. Zeus, they said, hurled his thunder and rage. Poseidon dragged ships beneath black waters. Hades whispered from the earth, promising power for souls. And the kings, desperate for dominion, obeyed every command. Blood of innocents stained the marble floors, offerings thrown into pits where shadows writhed. The rulers became monsters themselves, their names cursed and worshipped in the same breath. And beyond the ocean, in the jungles of America, the Mayas stood beneath their towering pyramids. There, the sun was a hungry god, and it drank not water, but blood. Warriors were dragged to the top, their hearts torn out while still beating, raised high so that God could see. The rulers stood in silence, their faces calm, as if that was nothing but tribute. Drums echoed, skulls piled into towers, and the jungle itself trembled at the rhythm of sacrifice. These were not simple men. They were giants of terror, builders of nightmares. Sargon, the fire priests of Persia, the Greek kings, the Maya lords, each one carved their dominion with blood and fear. Time has buried their empires, but their shadows remain, whispering through the ruins, reminding us that greatness and horror walk hand in hand. The world had not yet healed from the scars of empires when another shadow rose in the north, the Assyrian kings. Among them was Ashurbanipal, the hunter of men, whose armies left nothing but ash. His voice was law, his cruelty legend. Cities that defied him were erased, their people chained and dragged into darkness. On his palace walls, he carved scenes of lions torn apart, enemies flayed alive, rivers turned red. He was not merely a king, he was terror itself, dressed in the crown of civilization. To the west, Rome rose like a beast from stone and iron. Its early emperors promised glory, but they fed their people death as entertainment. In vast arenas, the ground was soaked in blood. Gladiators fought until bones cracked, wild beasts devoured the condemned while crowds cheered. The emperors watched, smiling, as if life itself was a coin to be spent. They were giants of power, yet their greatness was carved in suffering. Rome's strength was not marble or law, it was fear, sharpened into spectacle. Far to the east, in the Dragon's Land, the first emperor of China, Qin Shi Huang, declared himself eternal. He ordered books burned, scholars buried alive, and walls built so vast they scarred the mountains. He hunted immortality, drinking elixirs of mercury that poisoned his blood. Even in death, he would not rest. His tomb was a city beneath the earth, guarded by an army of clay soldiers, each with a face like the living. It is said their eyes still watch in the dark, waiting for the moment their master arises again. And in the jungles of the New World, the Aztec rulers stood upon their pyramids, demanding rivers of blood. Captives were sacrificed in endless lines, their bodies tumbling down the stone steps. The rulers claimed the sun itself would die without these offerings. So they fed it hearts, thousands upon thousands, until the very earth seemed drunk with blood. Their greatness was written not in gold, but in the screams of the conquered. Ashurbanipal, the Roman emperors, Qin Shi Huang, the Aztec lords, they were not men, but monuments of terror. They built their glory with chains and fire, with death and sacrifice. And though their bodies are gone, their shadows remain. In ruins, in whispers, in the trembling of the night wind, their laughter survives. Giants who thought themselves eternal, still haunting the world that remembers their names.